Hi, I'm Sean, and I'm going to show you how to install some silicone grip tube onto a polycarbonate flow tube, in this case an 8-light flow staff. The first thing that you're going to need is some kind of a lubricant. The silicone is very grippy and sticks to the tube too much to slide on its own. It can be done with an air compressor. If you have one and you know how to do that, great. You just basically blow air into it while sliding it on. It's a little tricky. It's similar to installing a bike grip. If not, this is another great way to do it and a lot easier. We've tried a whole bunch of different common household lubricants that would then evaporate or become sticky and not remain lubricated, otherwise your grip's going to keep slipping around, right? So you can't just use oil. We tried shampoo, diluted, and just straight shampoo, and straight shampoo kind of works. You could use that for short pieces. Better than that even is dish soap diluted in water. A little bit of dish soap and water will work for short pieces of silicone, both kind of an organic, all-natural dish soap or just straight up Dawn or whatever. However, those items are not, those options are not totally reliable. Dr. Bronner's soap kind of works, not quite. Personal lubricants, not really. Hair gel, no. Hairspray has been by far the best option. We tested both an Aquanet, like aerosol standard hairspray, and an all-natural herbal essence hairspray with a hand pump. They both worked equally well, and of course we recommend going all natural. Also, you're going to need some scissors to cut the end of your tube to make sure that it's got a nice straight cut across it so that you don't have to cut it again when it's installed. So I'm going to do that right now with some nice sharp scissors and just make the straightest cut that I can. Not a big deal, just an aesthetic thing really. And you're going to need a really sharp knife for trimming it after you install it, for trimming the end. Silicone's surprisingly hard to cut, and you don't want to have to press hard and end up cutting into your tube too much, your staff tube, when cutting the silicone tube. So find a really sharp knife, fresh box cutter blade, or a sharpened kitchen knife or something. Also, if you want to add a center mark to your staff or some kind of decoration underneath the clear silicone grip, you're going to want to do that first. To find the center, simply balance your staff. The staff already has a center mark because it has one of our wood cores with felt spacers on it. You can kind of roll your finger from side to side to find the exact center, but with your lights and everything inside, you can find the center. And I'm going to put this air sticker on mine to kind of spiff it up a bit, make it a little more fun here. And whoop. Line that right up. And seal it down. Yeah, so now if somebody else happens to have the exact same setup I do, I'll know this one's mine. The next thing you want to do is decide how much grip you want to put on the staff. We recommend about 50% of the length of the staff be gripped, but in the middle, of course, or whatever looks nice or whatever you prefer for whatever reason you have. I think this one would look nice with grip coming out just past the first light on the inside on both sides, which also happens to be exactly half of the staff. So I'm going to put a mark to make this really easy on one end just past the first light so that I know where to stop, because we're going to be getting hairspray all over the staff and I don't want to get it up in my lights. You also have to take the cap off to be able to get the grip on. So I've decorated my staff. I've marked where my grip's going to stop after I've started sliding it on. And I've got a lubricant and a way to trim it afterwards. I don't need anything else. Now, you don't want to do this outside in the sun or the wind, if possible. If it's really hot and dry where you are, you're going to want to do this process pretty quickly because it's going to dry and get sticky as you're doing it. It's actually surprisingly resilient, and as you're going on, if you get to a point where it seems like things are getting sticky, just back it off, add some hairspray, and keep going. So I'm spraying the hairspray into the end of the tubing first because the tubing is less likely to dry out since it's enclosed. And I'm going to spray a bunch in both ends and just kind of work it through and get it all over the inside. And it's going to bead up, it's going to drip on whatever surface you're working on, so you might want to put a towel down first to make cleanup easier. There, it's getting through pretty good. You'll notice it kind of beads up on the inside. At first it really adheres, but then it beads up. Don't worry about that too much. It still feels partially tacky to me, but for the most part there's hairspray all up in there. Next I'm going to spray the staff. Now I'm going to work from the bottom up so that I don't have hairspray dripping into my staff. I'm going to put the grip on from the bottom, and I'm going to keep it pointed down the whole time. So let's see how this goes. I'm gonna start with my nice straight end and get it up on there. Now, as you're pushing and pulling the grip on, it's going to catch on the end and kind of get stuck. You're going to have to kind of push it from the bottom because it's going to get caught over the end of the staff if it slides on a little bit unevenly. And it's also going to do something that I call buckling, where it gets kind of pushed up over itself. You don't want to leave that buckled for too long because if it dries or gets stuck that way, it can be very difficult to undo. So as you're pushing up from the one end, it's compressing it, and as you pull from the other end, it's stretching it, and you don't want to get it too buckled. Oh, there, it just buckled again. No big deal. There, I've got the whole length on the staff now, so it's going to move a little bit more easily. I'm going to push right up to my mark, and I'm just going to kind of like shift the rest of it on and make sure that it's not stretched out and that it's all come on as much as it wants to, but it's not going over my mark and it's not buckled anywhere. And that is all set. Now this is going to take a day or more to dry, maybe less. You don't want to play with it in the meantime because it's going to shift the grip around and it's going to end up partially dried and shifting and then getting stuck there, and you're going to end up with a grip that's unevenly tensioned, and then over time it's going to end up shifting or getting wobbly on the end or something, and you don't want that. So I'm just going to put this aside. If there's excess hairspray on it, which there will be, and that matters, you can use a damp rag to wipe that up, clean up your surface, your hands, and then after it's dry, you can come back and put your lights back in the other end so you have a reference of where your grip is going to end. And take that sharp blade and matching the other end where I had it end right at the base, the foot of the other flow light. come over there and cut around, and don't use any more pressure than you need to, because you don't want to cut too deeply into the polycarbonate staff tube because you'll weaken it. So there we go. Just cut that off. And obviously I've done this before it dried, and I noticed that there actually was still slight uneven tension there, just shifted by about 1/4 of an inch after I did that. So that's a reason to wait until it dries. Once it's dry, you're gonna have trouble getting the excess off. This is pretty stuck. So I'm gonna pretend that's dry. You want to be very careful when doing this, working with a sharp blade, of course, but you can take that excess grip there and basically cut and peel it off, trying not to cut yourself or your tube. Of course, after you've played with it a bit and dropped it a few times, it's going to have some marks all over it anyway, but no need to add any unnecessary ones. And that's going to be scrap. Now, as I said, when you put the grip on, it's going to shorten a little bit. So you can cut the grip to be about what you want it to be, but I would leave at least 4 inches extra. This is a little more than necessary. This was 3 feet of grip tubing, and it went on to a what is this? 12L staff with 8 lights, and basically 4 lights of wood core in the middle. So it's covering 6 lights, and it was about 3 feet long. And obviously you can just measure it in inches and figure out how much grip you need. Cut it, give yourself a little bit of excess, install it like that, cut off the rest, let it dry, install your lights, remove your grip marker, and pretending that it's dry, you're done and ready to flow.